Good evening and welcome to the Put the Kids in Bed version of the Sports 2.0 show. I am Rodney Knuppel. You guys recognize that one. That's DB. You can follow him there at his Twitter account. Dan Bradley, what's going on, Dan? Thanks for joining me. Try number 2 for you. Your first time was a good one. See if you can back it up with a good number 2.
I sure hope so. I did noticeably less preparation for this one. I found out, maybe 12 hours ago, tops.
Yeah, that's about it.
We were doing this tonight, so I threw together a quick SEAL list, picked a GCD, and kind of like what Tim would do when he was the full-time host of the show, is just show up, no prep, and whatever's up here, no stats, no nothing, just off the top. Let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's right up my alley, man. You're in. I love it. We got a lot we can talk about. We could talk Major League Baseball, and we will. We could talk NFL, and we will. So if I keep turning this way, I am following the Cardinal game, not only because they're winning, but I did throw together a little 5-leg single game parlay on FanDuel, and okay. I've got the Cardinals winning. Right now they're up 9-4.
Like that.
I had the Cardinals winning halfway, so through 5 innings. They were winning. They did that. I had the over 3.5 strikeouts for John Lester. He had at least 6 at one point. Check. Mm-hmm. I had Nolan Arenado home run. Check. So that's 4. He is
swinging a hot bat lately, too.
He is. My number 5. My number 5 is Nolan Arenado 2+ hits. So it's the 8th. I'm going to set the scene here. It's the 8th inning. Paul Goldschmidt's up, 2 outs in the 8th. So he's guaranteed to bat again, unless for some reason they take him out, which I don't think they will.
Right.
He's either going to bat. Yep. He's either going to bat here in the bottom of the 8th top of the 8th or top of the 9th. And if he gets a hit, I think it's like $315. So
that's not bad. That's a pretty good little parlay there.
Not bad. Pull all that off. So if I'm going live, if I'm talking live about the game, that's why. Anyways,
I'll just vamp. If he comes up to bat, I'll talk about whatever we are currently talking about.
I love it.
And pull as much out as I can just to fill a segment.
I love it. Hey, let's start with the National Football League.
Mm-hmm.
So week 1 thoughts, and I've got to ask about your Minnesota Vikings first.
Okay.
Because as a Vikings fan, I think it's time. So I ran into a Vikings fan yesterday, and he basically agreed with me that it's about time for Mike Zimmer to go. No?
I don't know. This has been a conversation that Vikings fans have had each of the past 3 seasons. And I look at how last year was somewhat of an anomaly with the Vikings defense. 7 starters gone.
Yeah.
Danielle Hunter hurt, misses the entire season. You think you're going to have him, you don't. Ngakoue plays well for 5 games, but then you trade him to Baltimore. He's out. So you're starting a bunch of rookies and players with less experience on defense. Yeah. And I think the bigger issue with the Vikings is the offensive play calling. The number of times that they don't have an offensive identity. Kirk Cousins is too vanilla of a quarterback to build your entire offense around him.
Right.
And today's NFL, you can't run, power up the middle, jet sweep right, power up the middle, first down. That's not how the NFL is played anymore. And you need to be able to adapt. Somebody put together a really good Twitter thread about this, and I wish I could remember what account it was and give them some credit here, but kind of just broke down a couple of the play calls and something like 20 times on 14 times they ran the ball on first down, picked up a total of 20 yards in that situation.
Oh.
And like the Bengals defense improved. Yes. Good enough to be doing that? Really, no.
Right.
So the Vikings have so many issues. I had them at 7-10 going into the season. One of those wins was against Cincinnati. So now I think at best they're looking about 6-11. That was a game that they really they needed to win that one because the schedule coming up is brutal. They got Arizona next week. If Cincinnati's defensive line was getting pressure on Cousins, Chandler Jones with 5 sacks on opening weekend, just hitting the ground running and in a contract year too for Chandler Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, so the next one we move to, your predictor had the Washington football team winning a bunch of games.
Yeah, that's not
And
looking great either.
no, not a great start there. And while we talk about that one, I have the Buffalo Bills heading to the Super Bowl, and they are 0-1 as well. So
it's a weird the Ravens losing to the Raiders on Monday Night Football. Can we talk about how weird the end to that game was?
Hey, I got to interrupt you. Nolan Arenado base hit.
There you go.
There you go.
Get that money. Well done.
I'll post that one up here in a
little. That's a good feeling.
Yeah, I'll post that one up here in a little bit.
We'll drink to that.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, so back to the NFL real quick. Yeah, what a wild week it was. And I guess your takeaways from the NFL this week. What were some of your takeaways?
I think the first takeaway is absolutely nothing that you expected going into this season is how it's going to play out. You look at teams like the Raiders, who really they invested in their defense a bit. We thought that they were going to be an improved team this year.
Sure.
But we still thought Ravens probably going to win that game. They were a favorite heading into the game, even despite being on the road. So a bit of an upset there on Monday Night Football. You look at the Cowboys, who weren't really sure what to make of them. Was Dak going to be healthy coming off of injury? I thought he played phenomenally on Thursday night. Didn't get the win ultimately, but I was really impressed with how he played and some of the touch on some of those passes.
Yeah,
I think the Cowboys really might turn some heads in that division now. I mean, I don't want to give the Cowboys too much praise here because, you know, we don't praise the Cowboys.
It's still
too
the
much.
Cowboys.
We don't praise the Cowboys. We don't praise the Yankees for doing what the Yankees do. That's just not how we operate. But I was really impressed with the work the Cowboys did. I was impressed with Cleveland hanging with Kansas City for 3 quarters, and it looked like they might have taken that game. Pittsburgh, Roethlisberger, a little bit slow out of the gate against Buffalo, but turned it on in the second half.
Yeah.
You know, not really a drop off there. Sam Darnold looking like a competent quarterback with Carolina. You know, good for him getting rid of Adam Gase as his head coach and not having to deal with that sort of playbook, having some weapons around him now. He's starting to look like, okay, he might be a guy. Teddy Bridgewater had a phenomenal weekend. Broncos losing Jerry Jeudy, that's going to hurt, but
yes,
they seem like they can be a team that, you know, if Bridgewater is the game manager that he's been throughout his career and is back to the level that he was going to be when he was in Minnesota before that gruesome knee injury, he could get the Broncos, I'm not going to say to a division title, but with that defense they have, that could be a playoff team.
Yeah, Broncos at Jacksonville this week. A game that they're going to be favored in. They host the Jets in week 3, another game they're going to be favored in. So I
see that 3-0 easy.
Yeah, there's a good start. Now, then after that, it's Ravens, Steelers, Browns, 3 out of 4 weeks. So difficult tasks there. They got the Raiders, they got the footballers. So, yeah, I mean, Denver's a team I think we need to keep an eye on because are they going to make that move to get to the postseason this year? I like that one.
Mm-hmm. I think NFC North this year is last year's NFC East. We've already heard that comparison. The Bears will win maybe 2 games. They'll win more if they start Justin Fields, but the longer they keep Andy Dalton as the starter, somebody.
Are the Packers that bad though?
We'll get into that a little later. I have a thought on that one, and we're going to get into that later in the show. But Packers, I think, really showed a lack of preparation.
Yeah.
And New Orleans is a team that you can't not prepare against. Sean Payton is a good enough coach.
Yep.
Jameis Winston, you want to talk about surprises. Jameis Winston, 5 touchdowns on opening weekend. No one saw that coming. If you had told me that in the Packers-Saints game, a quarterback was going to throw for 5 touchdowns and the opposing quarterback was going to get benched for the backup, I'm thinking Packers win that game 35-3 and not the Saints. I mean, it was such a complete and utter failure from the Packers, the likes of which we really haven't seen in a long time.
Right.
I mean, it would have to be when Aaron Rodgers was injured and they were starting somebody like Matt Flynn or Deshaun Kaiser. Yeah. Sorry to trigger Packer fans there with that callback, but It really was so out of character for everyone. Rodgers wasn't moving the ball well. Jones couldn't get anything going in the ground game. It was just so bad in all aspects that I think you almost have to chalk it up to being an anomaly of a game. The Packers we've seen are so much better than how they represented themselves on Sunday.
Yeah, and almost looked like they didn't care a whole lot as well.
That kind of was the look.
Yeah, it's too early to not care.
Mm-hmm.
It's too early to not care in the NFL. But I guess for the Packers, and let's look at this week's game a little bit. The Packers do have the Lions. So, if you are if you are a little beat up, that's a good opportunity to get caught back up, to be healthy, and be first place in the division because, the Bears are not a gimme at home against Cincinnati. Your Vikings go to Arizona. They're an underdog there.
I would say Cardinals by double digits from what we saw in week 1. Yeah. I would think if the spread was Cardinals by 10, I would still probably take the Cardinals on that front. Yeah.
Tomorrow night's Giants and the footballers, your footballers. Now
they have to be my footballers. Right. How they came out on predictions. I'm all in.
Yeah,
I'm all in. Taylor Heineke season, baby.
They should get healthy. They should get right tomorrow against my former host's team, the Giants, the football Giants.
The New York football Giants.
Yeah, 3.5 point spread in that game with a total of 40.5. It seems like it's probably going to be pretty ugly in Washington. I don't love Washington in any spreads more than 3 because they don't score enough. But I really like the football team tomorrow to bounce back. And I really like Ron Rivera and the way he coaches, and I do think he'll have his team prepared somehow, some way tomorrow. Giants, footballers, who do you got tomorrow night?
I'm going to take Washington as well. I think that defense is legit. That's a good front four. It's a good all-around defense, and I think they can really get the ground game going. I don't think they got J.D. McKissick as involved in the offense as we thought we might see. Gibson definitely still the workhorse there. But especially with Curtis Samuel still out and I think questionable for tomorrow night, not looking good, maybe doubtful. I haven't seen the latest injury report there, but I think McKissick will have a bigger role tomorrow night. I do think Washington plus 3.5, or excuse me, it would be they'd be the favorite. So Washington minus 3.5. I would feel comfortable with that, but I wouldn't go more than a touchdown. Yeah. Keep it in that 3 to 5 range, somewhere in there.
Well,
and I think under as well for tomorrow night.
And it's a prime time, and it's an NFC game. And what we've seen in, I guess my thoughts there is Giants gonna find a way to maybe keep it close. Maybe it's 13 at the end. They make it 6 and rally towards the end. A backdoor type, or 10, and they make it 3 at the end. So, I'm with you. Like, I'll take the 3.5, but anything more than 4 or 5 points, I'll stay away from there. But I do like Washington in that one. Let's go down some of these games real quick.
Sure.
Because we're not going to be on forever. I do want to kind of make a quick. We'll go Bengals Bears. I know you're there in Cincinnati. And the thoughts for the Bengals got to be pretty high after that win. And obviously, me being here in not necessarily Chicago area, but in Central Illinois, the thoughts are pretty low on the Bears, especially if Andy Dalton's going to get the start. Bengals, Bears, what are you thinking Sunday?
I think Bengals by quite a bit if Andy Dalton starts. I think it's a bit closer if Justin Fields is out there. Bears quarterbacks last week combined for 12 fantasy points.
Not good.
They both had 6. Justin Fields did that on 2 passes and a run for his touchdown.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to, if you're the Bears, Justin Fields has to be on the field if you're going to have any sort of a chance at salvaging things.
And while he's likely not going to start, I do think you'll see him mixed in a little bit more in this one. Obviously they are not going to be afraid to put him out there. I mean, so that's kind of how the NFL has moved over the last several years, is like backup quarterbacks were backup quarterbacks. And like, you didn't see the field back even just several years ago. Now, you got these guys, and even Marcus Mariota fit in the other night. Trey Lance filled in San Francisco. And so I do think you'll see a little bit more of Justin Fields. And, if Matt Nagy knows what's good for him, and especially dealing with the media and the fans in Chicago, you've got to see Justin Fields.
I completely agree. You're spot on with the backup and how that has changed over the last couple of years, because I think we've started to realize that if you're a team that has legitimate Super Bowl aspirations and your starting quarterback goes down, you can't afford to not have somebody in there who can effectively run the offense. Maybe it's a simpler version of the playbook, but they still have to be able to function. It can't be a situation where you go from Aaron Rodgers to Matt Flynn. And obviously he came in and did well that one game, or Rodgers to Kaiser is probably the better example. We saw Kaiser just fall flat and ruin another year of the Packers' really prime, where they could have been a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah.
So you have to have two quarterbacks in your system who could get the job done if they needed to. And I think we're going to see some quarterbacks over the next couple of years in the draft where that's kind of the mold, where they sit a year or two as a backup, maybe not two, but 1.5, get some mix into the offense, and you have a two quarterback system.
Right. Let's move in some of the later games, or at least one of the later games. Cowboys Chargers is an intriguing game. You talked a little bit earlier about the Cowboys. That's going to be a fun one because Dallas is staring at a possible 0-2 start with a pretty tough Chargers team going to LA. LA obviously picked up a big road win in week 1. Can the Cowboys find a way and pick up one road win before they finally get to go home in week 3? What's your thoughts there?
I think that's going to be quite possibly the highest scoring game of the weekend. Looking at what's up on the agenda, those are two good offenses. Justin Herbert leading an aerial attack, but they can still mix it up on the ground with Eckler in there, get him some touches, get him the ball in space, see what happens. And if Dak throws the ball 50 times again, that's going to be a high-scoring game. Whatever the over is, give me that one.
Yeah.
I don't know if I trust the Cowboys defense to get enough stops. They had some really bad breakdowns the other night against Tampa Bay. And Brady's going to pick you apart. And he picked on Micah Parsons, the rookie linebacker for the Cowboys, really kind of went after him, spread the ball around, did all sorts of things like that. Will the Cowboys have made some adjustments? Absolutely. Does it get easier when you don't have the triple threat receiving core that the Cowboys have? Or I should say the other way around, the passing attack that Tampa Bay has, and you're not having to try and figure out how do you cover Godwin, Gronk, Mike Evans, roll through down to Tyler Johnson, the number 5 or number 6 receiver on their depth chart. Everybody makes plays on that team. So I think that will help the Cowboys out a little bit. And you know what? I'm going to pick them. I'm going to pick the Cowboys this week. I feel good about it. Chargers as well. That defense is a little bit suspect. I think they're still, on the whole, a good enough team to get you right around 9, 10, 11 wins.
Right.
But I don't know that the Chargers defense is ready for an offense like what the Cowboys can bring. So I'll go Cowboys this week.
55 is the total on that one. That's pretty high. So here's one thing I was looking at. All the late afternoon slates and even into Sunday night, 50.5 Vikings Cardinals, 52 for Falcons Buccaneers, 55 for Chargers Cowboys, 54 for Titans at Seahawks, and 55 for Chiefs at Ravens. So NFL Vegas is looking for lots and lots of points in those afternoon games on Sunday. Should be a good slate. 4 games in that later afternoon game. Should be some fun games. Let's do one more. The Sunday night game is the Chiefs and Ravens. So the Chiefs obviously did what they do. They won their week 1 game. Ravens obviously in that wild Monday night game. You know, this to me has I know, and I don't like to bet against the Chiefs, but this to me has Ravens bounce back. Plus 3.5, 55 is total. I don't know how, but I guess it's just a Harbaugh thing. I seem to think we're going to be a Ravens bounce back here. What's your thoughts?
I think it's going to be really tough for the Ravens to keep up with all of their injured running backs.
Yeah.
Some big injuries across the board. We saw a couple offensive linemen get really banged up. If Baltimore is going to stay in the game, they have to be able to run the ball effectively. They have to control the clock and keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. Because if that Chiefs offense is on the field, they're just going to score. They're going to find a way. And even with a defense that's as good as Baltimore's is and has been, you have to be able to slow the game down and keep that up-tempo offense off the field. I don't know right now that Baltimore can do that because of the injuries they have. And I think Ravens might be looking at 0-2. They could still be one of those rare, we hear it every year. The team that starts 0-2 and their chance of making the playoffs goes dramatically way down. But Ravens are that type of team that could get back to the playoffs even with an 0-2 start. Yeah. Just a kind of a bad beat almost if you look at it that way. And with the Raiders, Lamar Jackson with a fumble, that's not the usual performance you see out of him, and he had some issues throughout the game. It looked like the DB. Did you watch the replay of that touchdown? It looks like the safety or whoever the DB is covering kind of just gave up on the route. Just completely gave up on the route. And after what we saw in the previous drive where you have the false start and then a weird deflection interception, anything can happen. You can't give up like that. And I bet if he didn't get cut this week, he for sure was doing a lot of sprints in practice, a lot of laps, a lot of push-ups, all that sort of thing, burpees. It was a miserable week for that guy. So he'll play better this week, but I don't know that that's enough to keep up with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I guess my only rebuttal on that is I actually thought the Ravens didn't do a terrible job of running the football. Now, granted, a lot of that was Lamar Jackson, but even Tyson Williams, 9 carries, 65 yards, 7 yards a carry. I mean, maybe they're afraid of giving him a workload that's more than that. If you give him 15 carries, he's looking at over 100 yards. And I don't know. I guess I'm a little more hopeful on Baltimore. Not that I necessarily hope they win, because I don't mind either one of these teams. I guess I look at Baltimore will maybe find a way to get him more involved, get Jackson in the passing game a little bit better in Baltimore. So I'll take Baltimore. It looks like we're going to kind of be opposite of that one, but I am excited for that game.
I got to make very sure that my fiance is asleep right now because she is a Ravens fan.
Yes.
That's her hometown team. So if she's not asleep, whenever we end the show, I'm going to be in trouble if she finds out that I picked against the Ravens this week. So,
that's funny.
Keep it
quiet. Hey, let's move to Major League Baseball for a few minutes here. I do want to get to your GCD in the some Cias. So the playoff chase now is really interesting because the divisional race to me are all but over except for in the NL West. And that's intriguing because both teams are going to win 100 games. And that's really about it. Maybe the NL East, but I just don't think Atlanta's going to falter enough to let Philadelphia catch them. The Mets are pretty much done with it now. They're going to be 3 games under 500 here in a little bit. Phillies did pick up a walk-off win tonight, so they are still technically alive at 4.5 games. But the wild card races, I think, is what we should talk about. Cardinals now have a single game lead over the Reds because the Reds lost. They're going to be a game and a half up here in a few minutes. And the Padres are winning tonight, but seem to be faltering. Are you taking my Cardinals to win that wild card?
Oh, man. If you had asked me this question 2 weeks ago, I would have said no. Right now, I don't know. They look really good. They've been playing well. I think they're so inspired by how well Adam Wainwright has been pitching this year. I don't think he'll win the NL Cy Young. I think that's Walker Buehler's got that one all but locked up. But he'll at least garner some second and third place votes. And what Wainwright is doing this year, if you're not paying attention, it's just phenomenal. 40 years old, and he's putting up the best numbers of his career. It doesn't make sense what he's doing. And sometimes in baseball, that's all you need is something weird, something to not make sense that you can rally behind. And that's kind of what the Cardinals are doing. We've seen Yadier Molina pick his game up. Wainwright just on a tear right now. If they can get the bullpen figured out and just kind of steady that heading into the playoffs, this postseason run, they certainly have a very good shot at wild card 2. I don't think it's ultimately going to matter. I think whichever team takes second in the NL West is just going to wax wild card 2 in game 1, regardless of who it is. I think it will be the Cardinals, but one and done for whoever wild card 2 is in the National League.
Over in the American League, all 3 teams won tonight: Red Sox, Yankees, and Blue Jays, which means they're all 3 still tied. That's wild. Now, they get 2 teams to get in, as opposed to the National League with all those teams only getting 1. Oakland, Seattle are finding it very tough now. They both keep losing. They're falling out. It looks like it's going to be 3 teams for 2 spots, all divisional teams. I have not dissected their schedule, but I can only imagine they play each other coming down the stretch. You got to pick 2. Are you picking the 2 Giants, or are you picking Toronto to sneak in there? Who's your 2 out of 3 in the American League?
I'll tell you this. Not only do I think Toronto gets in, I think Toronto takes the first wild card spot.
Okay.
And I think they're the team that has home field in that first game, and I think they win head-to-head. There's something different about this Blue Jays team that is so fun to watch.
They're good.
They're good. They're fun to watch. They play an exciting style. You don't know whether they're going to win with dominant pitching. You don't know whether they're going to win with good defense, whether it's the long ball, whether it's just a nice, well-placed base hit up the middle to drive in a run. They're a fun team to watch.
And if they get Robbie Ray with the chance to start in that game, now obviously they're going to need him down the stretch to win games. But if he's set up, Robbie Ray, Garrett Cole are probably the 2 best options out of those 3 teams. Could be a good matchup.
Right. And I think that probably is the matchup we're going to see. I think the Yankees roster, as much as it pains me to say it, that's too good a team to get away with missing this year. With all due respect to our buddy Tanner Kern and his Red Sox, I don't think that they're going to be able to keep up down the stretch. And he's going to record this, and Boston will make the playoffs. And I'll have to come on air and apologize for being wrong and apologize for the Boston slander. But my gut tells me it's going to be Blue Jays and it's going to be Yankees.
Yeah, he wrote a piece today saying that the Red Sox would not only make it, but would host the wild card game. So hot take there. Shout out Tanner Kern. They did pick up a big win tonight. So all 3 teams still remain tied. Hey, let's move on. Let's move to the what do you want to do first? GCD or SIA? Let's do GCD first. So
let's do GCD. I like that because the SIA list here, that tends to be a good way to kind of wrap things up and see where we go.
Definitely. I like it.
GCD of the week. We kind of touched on this already too, so we don't have to go as in depth here. But GCD, I'm going to go with Aaron Rodgers. I think is the face of the Green Bay Packers organization for the last however many years it's been, 15 roughly, that he's been the face of that team. For him to have gone through all of this drama throughout the offseason of, I don't want to come back to Green Bay, trade me, we're not going to be able to work this out. Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we'll work it out, but you've got to bring in Randall Cobb. And for him to come in and play as bad as he did in the first week of the season after all of the talk this preseason, he didn't play in any of the preseason games. We saw him making decisions that he doesn't normally make. Throwing the balls behind receivers, throwing the ball 5 yards past your wide receiver and it turns into an interception. He threw 5 interceptions all of last year and threw 2 in the first week. What we saw was not the Aaron Rodgers that we have come to know over those past 15 years. So Aaron Rodgers is going to get my GCD of the week. You can't go through everything you did this offseason and not back it up by 4 touchdowns, 300 yards, no picks. You have to be able to put up a performance like that. Aaron Rodgers, GCD.
Aaron Rodgers, you're 15 of 28 for 133 yards.
Gross.
0 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions, only sacked once because you just threw the ball away all the time. You kept throwing it into the ground, 15 of 28.
And I still lost to a team in fantasy this week that started Aaron Rodgers. It killed me. This was the worst week in fantasy football I think I've ever had.
Dan, I think I got you beat. As you know, I host a fantasy football show, and I'm in 3 leagues, and I am 0-3. I lost all 3 games.
I'm in 4. One of them is a season-long dynasty total, so just keeping up with the points. But in the 3 that have win-loss, I'm right there with you, 0-3. Some bad beats. I have a thing that I do in fantasy where I don't start whoever is playing against my Vikings. That cost me this week by benching Joe Mixon. He kind of put up a number on the Vikings, and that cost me. But I would rather lose in fantasy and not have to cheer against the Vikings than win and have to cheer against my team.
I did this thing called Start Ronald Jones because I thought that maybe, he went for negative points. You scored more points than he did.
I did. Wow. Okay. I'm putting that on my resume. I'm putting that on my resume. Right up there with, what is it? Time Magazine Person of the Year 2007. Gonna add that one on there. The year of the creator.
Stop the count. All right.
We're ahead.
Let's go see you time. Let's get some guys out there and talk about them a little bit. Let's go.
All right. First one is a little bit somber. Sia Norm Macdonald passed away after a long private battle with cancer. There are a few people who have made me laugh more and harder than Norm Macdonald. Really just a gut punch to see that one. If you haven't seen his moth joke that he told on Conan O'Brien, it's one of the greatest jokes I've ever heard. It's on my Twitter page, HockeyVoxDB. You got to scroll through a little bit to find that one, but it's one of the best jokes ever. He was the host of the ESPYs, dropped a savage, brutal O.J. Simpson joke to wrap up his monologue. Another one of the funniest jokes of all time. Rest in peace, Norm Macdonald. See ya. We love you.
And 61 years old, too early. Too early.
Really too early. A comedian by the name of Anthony Jeselnik. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he tweeted out yesterday that fighting cancer for 9 years and not telling anyone is the most Norm Macdonald shit ever. Yeah. That was his tweet, and it's spot on. I mean, it really is. He was so well respected throughout the stand-up comic community. Huge on SNL as well. Turd Ferguson. Yep. And SNL Celebrity Jeopardy. I love that. That was one of my favorite bits.
Yeah, that's a sad one. All right, let's move.
All right, so now we're going to move into some different Sias here, and not end the show on that note. But still, we have some injuries this week. Raheem Mostert, Sia, gone for the year. Fractured knee cartilage. That it just sounds, or chipped, I think was the word they used. My knee hurt reading that coming across the ESPN. Crawl. Not fun. Let's see, who else do we have here? Sia Jeff Okuda done for the year. Sia Novak Djokovic's hopes of a calendar Grand Slam. He lost in the final. His opponent apologized for beating Novak and taking away the calendar Grand Slam. That was so weird to me. You know, you shouldn't ever apologize for beating your opponent. No. The whole point of sports, you're having fun and you're trying to win.
Yes.
And be your best. You should never apologize for winning.
I agree.
Sia, Ohio State football's hopes at a national title. A bad loss to the Oregon Ducks at home. First time Oregon has ever beat Ohio State. They were 0-9 before that. And I don't see how, even if Ohio State wins the Big Ten this year, you're not putting in a one-loss Ohio State over an undefeated Pac-12 or an undefeated Big 12 team. It's not going to happen. I think Ohio State lost out on their chance at a national championship with that loss.
And can we say see it to the Big Ten's chances?
I think so too. I mean, maybe Iowa. I love what Iowa football is doing this year, but I also don't see, how are they going to get by Alabama? How are they going to keep up with Georgia? How are they going to keep up with Clemson, Clemson a one-loss team, but Clemson's going to be right there at the end of the season. Can they keep up offensively with high-powered offense like Oklahoma, who very well could be in the mix at the end of the year as well? I don't see it.
Will Iowa get there is the question. Kent State, Colorado State, at Maryland. At Maryland, I mean, Maryland's not real good, but there's a road game.
I think that's 3 wins right there.
Yeah. At home against Penn State, at home against Purdue, at Wisconsin.
The Penn State one and at Wisconsin are going to be tough.
At Northwestern.
Win.
with Minnesota,
Win.
with Illinois.
Win.
And then the Friday after Thanksgiving, they always play at Nebraska. Now, I understand that's not a great Nebraska team, but it's supposed to be a better Nebraska team, and we've seen them play a little bit better the last 2 weeks. If Iowa's 11-0, you've got to think Nebraska's going to give it a great effort to knock them off. So, obviously, any team has a long way to go, but Iowa's got a long way to go. I see a Big Ten's chances to win a national title. See ya.
I think I see a Big Ten. That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's not just Ohio State, but I think it's Big Ten too.
Yep.
Because even if Iowa gets there, even if they get to the college football playoff, that's tough.
Yeah.
Who else do I have here? I'm going to put. We're going to actually see Ryan Braun.
Yep.
He's retiring.
Yep.
I see ya. Not a happy see ya for me.
Bye.
Bye. Good riddance. See ya. Michael Brantley, see ya. Headed to the injured list with a knee injury.
And his career's about over, right?
Just about. It's so many injuries. He's still playing well when he's healthy, but it's so many injuries at this point. I don't know how much longer he's going to keep hanging around.
I mean, he's 34, so he's got a couple years left. I thought he might be a little bit older than that, but yeah, he's getting close.
I think he'll probably come back for maybe 1 or 2 more years, but how good are those years going to be?
Right.
Brantley is far closer to the end than the beginning. And then the last one I got, I'm going to start something new here.
All right.
Because I can.
Yeah, no, you certainly can.
We're going to go with Sia Watch. Somebody who is on the watch to be on the Sia list.
Okay, yeah.
And I am going to put Urban Meyer on Sia Watch. There's a lot of talk about him to USC. He came out this week, I think just today even. It was either yesterday or today, and he said, these rumors of me leaving for USC, there's nothing to them. I'm not leaving. I'm here. I'm committed. How many times do we see this in sports where coach says, I'm committed to this team? Yeah. Player says, I'm committed to this team. Ownership says, we are committed to this player. And then they're gone in a couple weeks. I feel like this happens all the time. And as soon as somebody says, I'm committed to whatever, their foot is halfway out the door at that point. So I'm going to put Urban Meyer on Sia Watch. Yeah, especially if things continue to flounder for Jacksonville.
Well, yeah, I mean, home against the Broncos and home against the Cardinals the next 2 weeks. That's an O.
That's 0-3.
Yeah, at the Bengals. So at the end of the month, if they're 0-4, and obviously USC probably isn't going to fill their head vacancy for a while. I mean, they're going to get an interim for a while.
I think they'll ride it out through the end of the season. USC will go interim through the end of the season. Urban Meyer will finish out the season with the Jaguars, and then he'll figure out a way to bolt and hit the college ranks once again.
You think
he's a better college coach than he is an NFL coach, and Nick Saban is the same way.
Will coach 17 games with the Jaguars this year? You think he's going to coach all 17 games? That season runs out if January 9th.
If you set the over-under at 16.5, that's really tough for me to take the over.
Yeah, I mean, USC is probably going to be done December.
Late December. I think there's still an outside chance at a bowl game. It won't be a good game. It'll be, the Meineke Car Care Bowl or something like that.
Yeah, Christmas, basically.
It won't be, it'll be on the Christmas side of the holidays.
But you got January 2nd and January 9th Jaguars games.
I think USC gives him finish out the season. I will say over if you put it at 16.5 games. I will say under if you put it at 17.5. I think he'll finish out the season. Jaguars won't make the playoffs. And Urban Meyer, Sia Watch, he'll be out of Jacksonville at the end of the year.
All right. Sounds good. All right. We'll revisit that in a couple weeks. So, all right, man. All right. Hey, so that's about it for the night. I appreciate you coming on. Hey, we'll get you. So we got a couple things we got to circle back to. We got to circle back to this. Mm-hmm. We got to circle back to your playoff with the Toronto Blue Jays. A little bit of a hot take with Toronto hosting a playoff game.
Yep.
I can't think that the NL wasn't much of a hot take. We will have a difference in that Sunday night
Washington.
game.
Washington is
Yes.
the other one you want to circle back to.
Yes, because you got them winning like 13 games or whatever it is.
I did, and it's let me explain how this came to be. So there's a website, playoffpredictors.com.
Yeah.
And you can go through and pick every single week of the season who's going to win and who's going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did this, Washington came out at 14-3, and I was floored. I could not believe it. I went, "There's no way Washington is going to win 14 games." I thought maybe 11 or 12 would be, if chips fall in the right way, 11 or 12 is probably the ceiling there. So I don't know how it came out to be 14. I'd have to go back and look at what games it was that were the losses and which ones were close that I awarded in Washington's favor. But week 1 loss didn't do me any favors either. So I'm on a really short leash there with getting that one right. And at the end of the day, I mean, for me, it's just fun to do these predictions.
Right.
Some of my friends just enjoy seeing them as well. And I don't want to pick the same as everybody else. There's no fun in that. The whole point of it for me is to have fun. So on Washington, get 14 wins this year. Make me look like a savant for picking you for 14 wins. It's not going to happen, but please at least humor me and try to get to that point. Taylor Heineke, I hope you are the next Patrick Mahomes. I hope you throw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns this year.
That's funny.
It'll be great.
Yeah. All right, Dan. Well, thanks for joining me once again. We'll have you on. We'll get you on again. I appreciate you stepping up. Kind of the second round through here as we go through the put the kids to bed version. I don't know what we're going to do. I'll just keep bringing guys on. And, I kind of like
for Jeopardy.
Yeah, I kind of liked Sunday. It was like, I think people want to watch the Bears-Rams game, so I'm just going to stay off.
I think we're going to need to figure something out there. Maybe switch to Monday, Thursday for a show, but then you're up against Monday Night Football,
right? So
Tuesday and Friday night. Friday's not going to watch, so we'll have to figure something out here. Saturday night college football. We're getting into like the best time of the sports calendar.
Always stuff.
College and NFL. You got MLB playoffs. Hockey and basketball are going to start up here soon. If you're Premier League soccer, that's underway. Champions League soccer underway. There's always golf. There's always NASCAR. There's always tennis.
And then I've always got like kids running around here. I don't know. They're all over the place. There's kids like, you can't be on the show. You got this with the kid. That's why I do it at 9:00. Kids are in bed. Get out of here.
Exactly. That's why we call the show the Put the Kids to Bed
version. All right, Dan. Let's get out of here. Thanks for joining me, and we will be talking over the Twitterverse and see how all the NFL, college football, and the playoff races go down. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Rodney.
All right, that is the Put the Kids to Bed version of the Sports 2.0 show. I'm Rodney Knuppel. He's Dan Bradley. I will be back tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. Central Time for the USA Wager Sports Brief. For Dan, I'm Rodney. See you guys later.